Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Heavily Contested Hoops podcast. My name is Peyton Mitchell, and this is the first episode under the new name. Today, we're going to talk about some of the first four games that we've seen throughout this tournament, and we're going to talk about what's to come for the later days in this tournament. So let's go ahead and get started talking about how great the first 2 days of the tournament in Dayton were. When I started this tournament, I was like, the 16 seeds, they're not going to be great games to start. They were really actually a great game. Came down to the buzzer with UMBC and Howard. What I thought in the beginning is that Howard controlled this game from the 18-minute mark in the first half until the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the second half. Now, what happened after that was Howard was terrible from the free throw line. They were completely awful, which allowed UMBC to get back into this game. And we saw that as kind of a trend going into the second game, too, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But the thing I want to talk about from UMBC is my man DJ Armstrong Jr., who had 17 points. Now, this is a kid that you're going to know him because of the things he has under his ears in the condition, but he doesn't let that stop him, and he's just a ball player, man. It was just every time I looked at the screen, the ball was in his hands. He was at the free throw line. He was knocking down shots. He came away with 17 points. Wasn't their leading scorer, but he's the guy that stuck out to me that really allowed them to get back into the game and have a chance at the buzzer, even though they fell up short because it was a good shot. It was a good look that they really had the ball coming down. It wasn't when I say it's a great look, it wasn't the greatest look. They about turned it over, to be honest. It was almost turned over. The ball snuck through, but then they had an open look from the logo, and it was missed right. But other than that, UMBC had a chance to send that game to overtime. Now, from Howard, OC Okoje had 23 points and was 9 for 15 from the field and 3 for 3 from three. Now, this is a senior guard, and he was just exactly what they needed for him to be to win their tournament game this year. Now, after that, now they have to play Michigan. That's a game that's not probably going to go their way. Let's just be honest. It's not going to go their way. Michigan, third best team in the country per the rankings. In my opinion, I have them losing to Duke in the championship this year. But hey, anything can happen in March. So let's see what Michigan has, because they're going to be tested right out of the gate because they're going to be on a break after that heartbreaker of the Big Ten championship loss. So Howard's going to come out hot, and Michigan's just going to have to stay the course and see what happens. But now, for game 2 of that night was NC State and Texas, where Texas won 68-66. Now, this was a rematch of the 5th place game in the Maui tournament this year. Hence, I got the shirt. I didn't even do that on purpose. But when I first looked at this game, NC State's on the worst losing streak you could possibly be on to end the year after they beat their arch rivals, their teams just down the road of Tobacco Road and UNC. That was their championship, it felt like. It felt like they didn't come out after that game with anything ever to play for. Now, there's a lot of things that you could say went wrong with this NC State squad this year. The first thing that I'm going to say, and it was a key contributor in this game, is they were just terrible boxing out. They were out-rebounded 45-33 on the glass. That was terrible. Anytime, and most of those came on the offensive glass for Texas, where they missed a shot horribly early in the shot clock, and Texas got the rebound because nobody boxed out the shooter. It went right to the shooter. They got it, made a layup. It was embarrassing to watch for NC State fans. I'm sure it was embarrassing to watch for me as an ACC fan. So things like that just didn't make sense in the reason of how their season had gone. And it's things that you don't coach. You coach boxing out, but boxing out is one of the fundamentals of the game that they were terrible at this year. Now you can say it's because they didn't have a big, like Van Allen Lubin's their big, and he's undersized, which was the problem with Carolina last year. I don't know why Will Wade picked him up this year to be their starter, but hey, you got to work with what you get. And they were just couldn't do the fundamentals of the basketball game to help them win that game. If they at least make that a closer to more like a 40-38 rebounding game, NC State ends up on top. That's easy, and you don't even have to talk about the later controversy in that game at the very end after some clutch shots by Texas after that, because you're up by 4 or 5 and you have the ball and they're going to have to foul you so you make your free throws. But you didn't box out and rebound, so you don't get to talk about the later controversy that we will bring up here in a second after I talk about Tremaine Mark's 2 clutch shots that he hit were absolute ice in his veins, straight ice in his veins. Nothing better could have been done on the defensive side by NC State. That they did do a good job right there. They were perfect for that. But Tremaine Mark, 2 clutch shots, fadeaways, just nothing but the bottom of the net was found. But after that shot that was hit, let's talk about the thing that's happened 3 times in the past week. We saw it in the Dayton St. Louis game. They had players run on the court before the final buzzer came off. We saw it in the Michigan-Wisconsin game where they had players run on the court before the final buzzer off. And in the Texas game that we saw last night, the coach ran on the court. The assistant coach was on the court with 1.1 seconds left on the clock. There's no reason in the world a technical foul should not be assessed right there. If a technical foul is assessed right there, NC State gets 2 free throws and the ball at half court instead of the ball on their baseline with 1 second to go the whole length of the court. So after that happens, we got to take a step back and look, why are we not calling these technicals? I've seen games, now it's not a college game, but this one hurts a little bit. My high school lost last year and would have probably ended up winning the state championship if their players did not run on the court. That game got sent to overtime. They ended up losing. Other than that, this has to be called at all levels. We can't just not call it because these are the biggest tournaments of the life and they just made an insane play. You still got to play the game and call it the right way. Other than that, outside of that, yes, NC State, you got to rebound. You have to 100% rebound. But you got back into the game by making 2 insane threes, which you should have never been there if you don't make those threes. The one that Paul McNeil hit fading away in the corner, absolutely insane. That was a tough shot. Never in the world what I thought. I mean, actually, yes, I would. I watched him in high school. He was terrific. He took those shots all the time. He had about 60+ points one game. And that was by far insane. Kevin Keats did not use him great last year. We really saw a jump in year 2. And I'm excited to see what he does in year 3. But the other person that hit that a 3 to tie it was Darian Williams. And he was disappointing this year. He was a huge disappointment. Now, he averaged 14 points per game, but he was the ACC All-Conference Player of the Year for preseason. You don't average 14 points per game to be that guy for a Will Wade team. So when I hear Will Wade say comments like this after the game of that's the worst team that he'll have in NC State Wolfpack history as when he's the coach, you had the preseason All-ACC player. You're not going to get that every year. That's just not going to happen, especially when you have disappointing years like that. You're not getting that every single year, day in and day out. And then the other part that comes off of that fact is that Darian Williams and not even Darian Williams. We're not even going to blame this fully on Darian Williams because it's a team. It's a team game. There was a clip earlier in the year that we saw where they were all running suicides and they all had these bands. They were all tied to each other. And instead of them all running as hard as they can and the slower guys having to keep up, they were keeping up with the slower guys. It was lackluster. It was slow. It just didn't look like it was doing the purpose of the drill. So for Will Wade to say that's the worst team I'll have, if you're posting that in the beginning of the year and not making a difference to the end of the year, that's on you. You're the one that's got to change. Will, you're going to have to one to change because that's just unacceptable to see. But let's stop talking about NC State and talk about Texas. They got BYU next, and this is a very, very favorable matchup for Texas to win. BYU's been struggling of late. They still have one of the top players in the country in AJ DeBansta. But BYU struggled since Richie Saunders has gone down with an ACL injury. So that's why I'm thinking Texas has a chance to be that team that goes into the second weekend of this tournament. Other than that, this is going to be a great game to see because we get to see AJ DeBansta anyway. And Texas leaving the Big 12, not really a BYU rivalry there. but they're playing against the Big 12 team. If BYU can beat Texas, why did you leave the SEC? Obviously, it's money, but hey, there's always extra additives to it in March because we get to see these out-of-conference matchups mean just that much more than those early non-conference games. But no, that was a great ending to the first. That was a great ending of the first day in Dayton. So now let's talk about the second game today that just finished up a little bit earlier ago, right before I was recording this, was Miami, Ohio. The darlings of this tournament is what we're going to say right now. They beat SMU 89-79. And this is where I'm going to go on a rant. SMU was pitiful in this game. This was they were just lethargic in everything they did. It was not, I wouldn't even say it was the same SMU team I saw that played Louisville in the ACC tournament. No, they did not play Louisville. They played Miami. Actually, it doesn't even matter because they played Louisville. They played Louisville. Let me get that right. They played Louisville. So that was just completely embarrassing to see after that loss, not even a heartbreaking loss. They lost that game. They were not going to win that game. But they were not the same team when they played this Miami, Ohio team today. And now can you say it was because it was a road game for them? And they've been absolutely terrible on the road. SMU is 3-9 on the road this season, and that's not considering their ACC tournament games and neutral games. So to see that and Miami only be an hour from Miami, Ohio, which they're in Oxford, only being an hour away from Dayton, that helps to show maybe this was a true road game for SMU and we should have seen the writing on the wall. But we're going to stop talking about how bad SMU was. They were getting beat all over the place, the three-point line, jumping at everything, not guarding a backdoor cut. We're going to give all that credit to Miami right now. Miami attempted a tournament record 41 threes and made 16 of them. But that's not even the thing that impressed me the most. The thing that impressed me the most was in the second half, SMU was running out to everything on the three-point line, and they were attacking the back door every time. The back door was left wide open. I don't even know what they were doing about the back door, but it was open, and they were paying to heat the outside. It was just insane to watch, and they never made an adjustment after that fact. Because of that, that is my key as to why Miami won this game. Yes, they came out hot, but they really didn't shoot it that well in the second half when you look at it. The first half, they shot the heck out of the ball. They were perfect. Brant Byers and Ian Elmer were tremendous in the first and second half. They shot it really well in the first half. But when they were making those backdoor cuts, that is where they really put SMU away and shut the door. Not the back door. They shut the front door. Didn't even let them get to the back door. But other than that, let's highlight Ian Elmer real quick. 6 for 9 from the three-point line and 8 for 11 from the field with 22 points. Hey, you come to play in March. You get your one shining moment. And he sure did take that opportunity, especially when MAC Player of the Year, Peter Suter, did not play the greatest offensive game scoring production-wise. He was still great passing the ball and rebounding it. He was amazing in that way. He didn't even play. If you were watching that game, you were probably thinking, where's Peter Suter? If they were not saying, and Peter Suter with another rebound, and Peter Suter with another assist, and Peter Suter with another assist. It was just great. Peter Suter's name was mentioned so many times because he did the little things today. But Ian Elmer and Brant Byers were the exact reason as to why the scoring production was there. And that's just what I want to highlight for Ian Elmer was 6 for 9 from 3, 8 for 11 from the field. And Brant Byers hit 2 huge shots to end the first half and really open up that run. That is what really made the gap too big for SMU in the beginning. They dug that hole way too deep because of Brant Byers. And then after that, SMU came back. Obviously, they were going to come back. The game is about runs. It's a game of runs. So after that, we saw SMU come back, but then we saw Miami right back at it with those backdoor cuts and then knocking down the big threes on the second chances. Because SMU, just like NC State, was terrible rebounding. They were awful to play defense. They were not. It was a foul fest. It was a foul fest. They didn't move their feet. They didn't box out. They didn't go get the ball. they got away from pounding the ball inside and getting to the hole, because that's when they really went on the run. They got away from that, didn't hit any threes. Miami capitalized, and we're going to see them play Tennessee. And now against Tennessee, we really get to see what they're made of. Because we're going to be able to talk SMU, 3-9 on the road, blah, blah, blah. They weren't great. Not the greatest road team. It was a road game for them. All right. Miami gets the chance to now shut that up against Tennessee. The SEC, the big boys. The defending champs come from the SEC. Now we get to see exactly what Miami is made of. If they shock the world here, we got to give the flowers and crown them Cinderella. But now let's go ahead and talk about tomorrow. And the second game of the day, or third game of the day, is Louisville and USF. And we got some bad news for Louisville fans. Freshman Mikel Brown Jr. is out for the first weekend of the tournament. Now, personally to me, this has been the one of the things with Darian Peterson and Mikel Brown Jr. I'm putting them in the same category. They've got to play basketball. You have got to play basketball. You are getting all this money to not play. You've got to play basketball. But let's talk about what this means for Louisville's tournament hopes. In my opinion, this is my upset pick against USF. They are here to do some damage with Brian Hodgson, with his dad for the first time, as I mentioned yesterday in our first episode. They are here to be Cinderella. They are here to not turn around. They are not scared. They shoot the ball. They run up and down the court. They average almost 90 points a game. This is going to be tough for Louisville, who I think, watching them, they play kind of slow in the way they don't build up everything. It's not as fast as I think Pat Kelsey's teams have been in the past. It's a slower team. But part of that has to do with Mikel Brown Jr. not playing. They don't have their guy all the time. Now, Ryan Cornwell, great guy, great player. Isaac McNeely, great player. But these guys, Mikel Brown Jr. is the guy that they brought here to get them far in March. He averages 18 points per game, but he's only played 21 of their 35-plus games this year. So after that, you got to think, Mikel, come on, you got to play the game in March. This is what you come to big-time schools to do, is to play these games. If you're not doing that, don't show up. Go play in the OTE league and then go to college. Go play overseas and then go to the pros. Not college, because you don't even want to play in college. So why are you there? You're probably not going to school, so just do something else. Do something other than waste NIL money when people are trying to win championships at this time in March. Now, if his back injury is true, GMs, that's hurting his draft stock. Obviously, I'm taking a guy like Darius Acuff Jr., and that's the guy I'm going with. But other than that, USF's still my upset pick, and I'm rolling. I'm even more confident in it now. Just because Mikel's not playing, he probably wasn't going to play based off what we've seen this year anyway, and they were still my upset pick. But now knowing he's not going to play, that's added fuel to the fire. USF's my upset for sure. Now let's talk about another possible upset that the nation is kind of falling in love with here. But to start, why we're going to see that, Aden Holloway of Alabama was arrested and suspended by Alabama after he was arrested with a felony drug of 2.1 pounds of marijuana. This is going to make this game very, very interesting. Hofstra doesn't score it at a very high rate, but Cruz Davis is CAA Player of the Year, averages 20 points per game. They're no stranger to beating teams in the Power 5 conference like Pitt and Syracuse in the same week. They won a strong CAA conference after a few upsets. This is a team you got to look out for. But here's the reason I say this does not change the odds against Hofstra. Hofstra has no chance, in my opinion, of winning this game. LeBaron Philon averages 21 points per game and is third in the SEC in scoring. Now, just because they lose Holloway, they still have 3 top 20 scorers in the SEC. No, they still have 2 of their 3 top scorers in the SEC still playing. So after that, Philon's going to be that guy. He's the guy to take the shots anyway. Give him the ball against the CAA squad who doesn't score at a high clip. They play the fastest game in the country. They're not going to be bothered against Hofstra. They're not going to win this game. It's not going to change a thing. But Aden Holloway, what are we doing, man? This is just not the time to be dealing with all this stuff, especially after Alabama had the earlier stuff with not drug arrest, but Charles Bediaku trying to play in college when he had exceeded eligibility because he had entered the draft and stayed past the point to where you lose the rest of your eligibility. We're going to leave it at that. Alabama's still going to win this game. They're probably not going to beat Texas Tech, though. That's where I think the odds change in Texas Tech's favor, especially with their guard coming back from a groin injury in the Big 12 tournament. Now, let's talk about another player not playing in this one, which this has no effect on how this game will go. 15-seeded Tennessee State's guard Aaron Nukarama will forego the NCAA tournament to prepare the 2026 NBA draft. Now you're looking at this and you're thinking, who's not playing in the tournament to better their draft stock or prepare for the NBA draft? Yeah, let me make sure I read that right. Aaron Nukarama. He averages 17.5 points per game, is widely expected to go undrafted, and I would probably put my life savings on it. He is going undrafted. Now, in my opinion, why are you sitting out of the tournament if you're projected to go undrafted? This is your place to be the guy that increases your draft stock because the world is watching, the country is watching you, and potentially the world is watching you. This is your chance to increase that draft stock and play against the better player, the better teams, and the better players. Other than that, you don't play. I don't even know how to speak on this. Like, it's a dream to play in the NCAA tournament, and you're skipping out on it. Like, hey, that's your choice. You even had another year of college eligibility. You could have played and gone and got paid at another school. I don't know why you're staying. But now let's stop talking about games that can change. And let's talk about the games that I'm going to highlight. And be sure, if you can't watch all of them like I'm going to, these are these three that you got to watch. Number 8 Ohio State versus number 9 TCU. Here's the first reason. It's the first game of the tournament. You gotta have that TV on. Right start. 12 o'clock Eastern time. You gotta watch it, turn it on, tune in. Now I think Ohio State's gonna win this one. We got Bruce Thornton averaging 20 points per game. That's a tough Big Ten conference that they're coming out of. They were doubted early. I don't know why. They really didn't drop that many. Maybe to Washington. That's the one people are like, do they even deserve to be in the tournament? Okay, they finished 12-8 in Big Ten play. They're fine. They are in. TCU, they're hot lately. They are very hot, very, very hot. But they lost a few in the middle there that I don't trust them against this Ohio State team and Bruce Thornton, who's averaging 20 points per game. That's why Ohio State's my pick. But this is the game where you're going to see a lot of brackets busted, especially since they love to start with that 8-9 matchup and just get half of them out the way right away. So this one makes me nervous. I always got to put half my brackets with Ohio State, half them with TCU. But hey, I'm rolling Ohio State majority of the way for this one. So let's see. Let's get ready for 12 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. Game 2 that I want to look out for is number 8 Georgia versus number 9 St. Louis. Another 8-9 matchup. These 8-9 matchups are great. I mean, you got Clemson and you got Iowa too that we can even throw in there. Not going to make this list, but that's going to be a good one too. Now, the reason I'm choosing Georgia and St. Louis is because the A-10 has been disrespected. We know they have been disrespected. This would have been a one-bid league if St. Louis had won their conference tournament and not lost to Dayton. VCU snuck in, won that auto bid, so St. Louis takes the at-large bid. Now, the reason that I'm watching this game is because of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar himself, Robbie Avila. I did not say that. Avila. He holds and the rest of the St. Louis squad holds opponents to under 70 points per game. Now, that's very, very impressive because these guys are these are your mid-majors, and these are your mid-majors that make runs. In March, if you have defense that plays really well, you're going to have a chance to win. You're going to have a chance to win these games. So because they hold teams under the 70 points per game, that's why this is a must-watch game. But I think Georgia's going to come out on top. They're going to be a little bit too big. They're going to be a little bit too strong as an SEC team with Santos Surreal down low, holding it down. Number 8, Georgia's got my pick, but this is a game to watch. Anything can happen. St. Louis is going to be there. They're going to be playing defense like they have all year. Nothing's going to change just because they're on the big stage. And it's Josh Shirt's first time. We finally get to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar himself, Robbie Avila, for the first time after we wanted to see it last year. It didn't happen. Wanted to see it the year before with Indiana State. They fell short both times. But now's their time. We get to see it. Now, the other game that I like is number 7, St. Mary's versus number 10, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a fast offense. They put up some of the most threes, and they put up the most shots and have the most steals in the country or in the SEC. They want you to turn it over. They put the shots up at an unreasonably fast rate. But the reason I like this matchup is because St. Mary's holds opponents to 65 points per game. So Texas A&M scores 87 points per game, and St. Mary's holds opponents to 65 points per game. That's exactly what you want to see. You want to see differences in teams clash in March. That's what you're going to see. In my opinion, defense is probably going to win you championships, but I'm not going with them. I want high-powered offense. Let's go. Let's turn that fast for the Aggies. We're going 87 points per game for St. Mary's, or for Texas A&M. They're going to be my pick. Even though St. Mary's does score 80 points per game, but they're not going to get sped up. They're going to get sped up. They're going to get sped up. Texas A&M is going to want you to turn that ball over, and that's why I'm taking it as an upset pick for Texas A&M over number 7, St. Mary's. Now, I finally finished my final bracket tonight. Got to put them in some pools, but here are my final 4 picks. In no particular order, Michigan. Despite the loss of LJ Kason, the bracket's not deep. You got to watch out. You got to watch out for them for 2-seed Iowa State. They got to hurt Texas Tech or an Alabama less. Aden Holloway. So I think their road to the Final Four is right there for them, easy to take. That's my first team to make the Final Four, and ultimately I feel like they will be in the championship game. After that, here's my dark horse Final Four team. This is what's going to win me the bracket pools. I got Arkansas. They are hot, and they have the best guard in the country and the best guard under a John Calipari-led team, and there's been plenty of those in Darius Acuff Jr., who has 23 points per game, and Kentucky is going to regret letting Calipari go because they will make it to the Final Four before Kentucky does after his absence. So now we're half the way there. Now let's look at Houston. They've got the best defense in the country. I see Vanderbilt knocking off Florida in that region again after we just saw it in the SEC tournament. Houston's got the defense. Even if Vanderbilt doesn't knock them off, that's going to be a rematch of last year's title game. Houston's going to get the job done this time like they should have last year, and they're going to take down Florida. They're not even going to have to worry about them because Vanderbilt's going to. But if Vanderbilt doesn't do the job and they end up ruining my bracket, Florida's going to do it. Florida's going to lose to Houston in the Elite Eight. 1 versus 2. It's going to happen. Now, here's my championship order. I said no Pacific order, but I'm saving the best for last. Duke, best team in the country so far. Ngungba's not going to play in this first game. It's not needed for Siena. He's going to get that extra rest. Foster out for the tournament. It doesn't matter. They still have the Boozer twins. And there's going to be a huge argument for who the player of the country or player of the year is in the country for the Naismith Player of the Year with Cameron Boozer and Darius Acuff Jr. My pick's Darius Acuff Jr. He should be the number 1 overall pick. I'm taking him over DNP Darren Peterson. But other than that, that's what I'm taking. Duke is my champion. Michigan as my runner-up, and Houston as Arkansas as my national semifinalist. That does it for this episode of the Heavily Contested Hoops podcast. Thanks for following us here on YouTube or on Spotify, and stay tuned for tomorrow's episode.